It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, a man who could leave keys to his own house. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Well, it'd be better than losing keys to someone else's house that I probably shouldn't have. So there's always that.
There is always that, but I'm not 100% sure you should be losing your own house keys. But there we go.
It wasn't a plan. I didn't leave the house with the intention of, today I'm going to lose my keys.
That would be an evil genius move of next level proportions.
Well, it'd be the next level dickhead proportion.
Yeah, Neil, we're in that weird week in between Championship Sunday and the Super Bowl.
Pro Bowl.
This won't be a Pro Bowl one. I think last year I did call it the Pro Bowl episode, and I think we got our lowest listenership of the year. So I've decided that we won't call it that this year in an ironic twist. Today we will be reviewing the championship games, obviously, like we have done throughout the playoffs, and then go through the standard NFL awards and give our votes for each. Not that we have votes, but if we did, this is what we would do.
No, it's interesting.
I'm interested, Neil. I'm interested in what you've said and how, if you have ever said something different to me, how dare you even think it?
Aggressive, but
so wait, it's going to be my go-to move for this, to be honest. Championship review first, Neil. So we'll plug into the mains and look at those previous games, and this is my grand overview. We'll get into the details of the game first. High level overview. Great games, really exciting. Really enjoyed both of them. I think it's time to make every play reviewable.
Well, this is the thing that the naysayers will say, if you make everything renewable, the game will ground to a halt. Well, no, it shouldn't, because if it's going to ground to a halt, then that's your processing problem. Why does it take the good people at Wimbledon 10 seconds to do a review? It takes the NFL 10 minutes. If you cannot find the evidence to overturn something within 1 minute, do not overturn it. There's a little rule.
And I don't know why it would be any longer when everybody's got the same amount of reviews. Okay, you will have. There's a possibility of more reviews at the end of each half. I do understand that, but if Joe Philbin wants to challenge the a yard and a half, then he can do in the first quarter. That's up to him, but it means that he can't challenge something which could be very much more important later on.
Yeah, it's a skill. It's a clock management skill. You learn by doing. But if the NFL is going to hold itself up to a position where it's in its most high-profile games, its referees and other officials are making horrendous decisions, then quite frankly the NFL deserves to be held to ridicule for it.
I look and think, on one of them I think it sways the game, on the other I don't. Like in the two games, one of them has bad refereeing decisions throughout it, and I don't think it affects the game. One of them, I think it's undeniable that in the Saints game, if he gives pass interference there, they kind of just bleed out the clock. I think that's just standard fare. Now we can say that other things should have happened before that. He shouldn't have thrown it on first down, and like that, I'm totally okay with. Much like I don't think that Sean McVay should have kicked a field goal from 19 yards. And we'll get onto it next week. But you're gonna have to scrub that. You're gonna have to try and scrub that Washington stink off a little harder, Sean, because your fourth down, conservativeness is gonna cost you a Super Bowl. You can't be kicking 19-yard field goals. That's not gonna work. So let's get straight onto the Rams Saints game. Let's look at the quote-unquote losers first.
They are losers.
They are, because they didn't win. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. Ski max that, bitch.
Yeah, I was going to say, as you can tell, Neil doesn't like Sean Payton and didn't like him running up the score. Okay, no problem with that. I'm going to move away from Payton for the time being.
I wish they would.
They're not going to, and if they did, there'd be a queue of about 29 other teams trying to hire them as a coach, including my team. Was that a last hurrah for Drew Brees as a quarterback? Because there was a couple of plays where his arm wasn't Drew Brees' arm, if you know what I mean.
I don't know what you say. Drew Brees, though, he's never exactly had a cannon. He's just been clever and accurate. And because they have kept the offense, they've evolved the offense to a way that it still plays to his strengths. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think as long as he wants to play, as long as they can protect him, which for the most part they do very well. I've said for a few weeks that the offense is ridiculously dependent on too few players. And so, if they can bring in a few, there's a very talented crop of tight ends. Drew Brees has always been able to make use of talented tight ends. This year he didn't have one. If they could bring someone in like that, maybe another wide receiver. I don't see any reason why this is going away. I think they're going to lose Mark Ingram. So, it's a question of who do they bring in to complement Alvin Kamara? I don't think the Saints are going anywhere because as long as they've got Brees and Peyton and they play in the Dome, they're going to have an advantage. And plus, they play in the NFC South, which is, as we know, ridiculously competitive and changes hands every year, seemingly.
I listen to the Tony Kornheiser show, and every Tuesday they have Jason Lachenfora on because he used to work with him at the Washington Post. Jason said a really interesting thing. He said basically the same thing you said, i.e., they have Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara, and not much else. And he's like, with the 28th pick in the NFL draft, the New Orleans Saints draft, Antonio Brown, wide receiver, Pittsburgh Steelers.
They have a job. They haven't got a first round pick, have they?
Have they lost it? When did they lose that this year?
They traded it to the Packers.
Oh God, they did as well. He didn't say that. I said that. He just said. He just said. I added those bits in. He just said.
Tremendous job by JLC there, but
I'll take the fall for that one. JLC just said he thinks that they will go hard after Antonio Brown without having a first round pick. I then question whether that's feasible or not.
Yeah, it's a pointless argument to make because if the Cowboys can get Amari Cooper for a first round pick, I don't think the Steelers are giving him away. Bollocks. They're not giving him away.
No, absolutely not. We go on to the Rams, and I know it's amazing because, as we said, there's an argument that the refs cost the Saints the game, but now the story turns to a coming of age game for Jared Goff and Sean McVay.
Well, it couldn't have got off to a worse start. Todd Gurley thinking, he was a South African slip fielder. Or Alshon Jeffrey, for that matter, so I don't have to catch this. It'll just go through. Oh, I'm no good. But, you could argue that, say, the Saints got gun shy. Because the Saints had 4 possessions in the second half and overtime and scored 3 points. So we can obviously, as we are wont to do, we'll put a heap of pressure on Wade Phillips of how they adjusted in the second half. And, also, for some reason, all of a sudden, Drew Brees' life wasn't worth living because, especially Ndamukong Suh, who was excellent, they came back big after halftime, but the Rams did what they had to do. They got a few more players involved than the Saints did.
I guess a question for me, Neil, is, the Todd Gurley thing was next level beyond bizarre for people watching live. So, is it? Where do you land on it? Is it a injury thing and he's just not fit? Is it a bit of a? No, I don't want to say panic attack. I don't mean that. I mean a bit of stage fright or what? Because he's played in big games. He's an SEC player. It's not like he hasn't been in big games before. It was a very strange thing, and for him to just openly admit that he was benched was also refreshing, I guess.
It's odd because. Certainly from a fantasy point of view, Sean McVay is very, very open with his players' injury status. So if he says this wasn't injury related, then you always have to believe it. The evidence is there but it's Todd Gurley, for Christ's sake. He had a drop. He had a couple of drops, but it's a tough one because, as we'll come to later, he has been sensational this season, and pretty much ever since Jeff Fisher got run out of town, he has been incredible. But obviously, it's been a big few weeks for running backs don't matter truthers.
Yeah, that's a concern, for those guys. It's a good time to be alive. Well, I mean, let's move on to the other game, Neil, and I guess first of all, in a in the overarching game. What a performance by both teams in that fourth quarter on offense. It was just absolutely spectacular. And you know, I know there's, you know, well, let's say that, you know, Chicago Bears 1985 truth is out there. He won all games to finish, you know, 9-6. Good luck to you. And, you know, I love excellent middle linebacker play as much as the next guy. But to be honest, I'd rather that Patrick Mahomes evades a rusher and then throws it sidearm for 15 yards into the waiting arms of a Chiefs receiver, or Brady stands there all day and throws it to Edelman again. Don't cover him, by the way.
No,
he hasn't made plays in the playoffs ever.
It's as Andrew Brandt always says, though, kickers are like lawyers. You know, you don't want to use them, but when you do, you hope you're a good one. To an extent, you can extend that metaphor and say it's what defenses are becoming. You don't really want to invest an awful lot in them, but when you hope that they're good enough that when you do actually need them to step up, they do. And I say from individual talent-wise, I mean, Justin Houston, former, if he wasn't a defensive player of the year, he's certainly a candidate. Dee Ford, Chris Jones have both been exceptional this season. You would argue that those three are probably bigger names than most of the Patriots defenders, and have probably put up more counting stats, but ultimately the system beat the talent. So, and also, the plus side for the Chiefs is that twice they've fallen down big to the Patriots and fought back. The downside is they couldn't fight back all the way. So what do you do for this? Well, don't fall behind. It sounds stupid, but if your defense cannot get you off to the start that your offense needs, you're expecting miracles. And while miracles are great and Patrick Mahomes has done some wonderful things, why not make his life easier?
Yeah, I look and I think, it sounds ridiculous, one of them, Tom Brady doesn't like it when it comes, the defense comes straight up the middle. Yeah, add him to every other quarterback who's ever been born. But yeah. I think it's more a case of that's one of his few weaknesses, if any. And they didn't get that up the middle pass rushing, Houston and Jones and that are outside rushers. And not that doesn't concern him, because obviously quarterbacks don't like to be hit, especially on the shoulder when it looks like it at the face mask, but that's a different conversation. But, I'm starting to wonder, is Tom Brady even a human? And I've got to say, the rope-a-dope-esque performance that the New England Patriots put on everyone this year was probably one of their best. Put an absolute clown suit on everyone. And then, don't want to, go back on anything, but I said, that they would use Gronk in this game in my DFS team. Oh yes, they did. I said that the Patriots would try and take out Hill and Kelsey. They basically did, and they'd have to use Sammy Watkins, 4 catches, 114 yards. Just big myself up, but I guess the question is on the Patriots thing is, we slag off the AFC East because it's garbage, but what it allows them to do is to play themselves into this absolute peak form where in the 2 playoff games on offense they basically looked unstoppable. And if we're honest, we can get down to went to overtime or whatever, 7-0, and they threw a pick into the end zone, which is not unlike them at all. And they would have then, if they would have then scored, they would have been 21-0 up. And at that point, it's absolutely game over.
The most impressive thing as well, again against conventional wisdom, is that in their 2 playoff games, they're losing the turnover battle.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even know, though. You wouldn't know they were losing it. It's not like this big thing, is it? It's not.
No. It's because teams are turning them over in situations and not making them pay. And we saw this last year, against the Jaguars. Yeah, Jack wasn't down, we know. But you've just got the fumble. Score again.
Yeah.
Don't give them the ball. Don't make it a game of field position. Take the ball off them and score on them.
Yeah, and then I just asked you, I'm just interested more than anything. Where do you stand on the overtime rule?
Defense is a part of football. They're allowed to play as well, because on the overtime rule, the New Orleans Saints got the ball first and lost.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm fine with the overtime rule, and why I'm fine with the overtime rule. What I used to hate was, oh, let's move the ball 20 yards, 30 yards, and then kick a field goal, and
Mm.
then lose. Never liked that. If you can't stop someone scoring a touchdown, that's an issue for me. So I haven't got a problem with that. The overtime rule, it's fine by me. That makes sense. Like if the Patriots would have kicked a field goal, then the Chiefs would have got the ball back.
Yeah.
So it's
And
not a
ultimately,
problem.
I know it's this will be seen as a facile argument by many, and I have seen people criticise it. Win the damn game in an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And there's 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 questions on when you get so close to the end zone and you're going to score, and then you're going to give Tom Brady back the ball. Should you be giving him 2 minutes and 3 seconds?
That's your fault.
Exactly. I'm not as adverse to that argument at that point in the game, but it's definitely something that you can talk about.
But that comes down again. If you have so little faith in your defense that you can't trust them, well, then you played with house money to get here, quite frankly.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I'm very little sympathy.
I guess on the Chiefs side of the ball, Neil, I think they're now 1-8 in home playoff games, which, considering Arrowhead's supposed to have this amazing atmosphere, is not good. And we love Andy Reid, but this is Marty Schottenheimer, like version 1.2. There's a slight upgrade. There's playoff victories in there.
This is Schottenheimer with an offense.
No, it's Schottenheimer with a playoff victory every year. Do you know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, it's one Super Bowl in his
Six championship games.
6 championship games, but in his 20 seasons in the NFL, right? Of which 18 he's had a winning season, I think. So
it's something stupid like that. Yeah.
It's like it's a crazy thing, and I'll be honest. I was speaking to someone about this today, and I've got interesting thoughts. So, do you blame Andy Reid for how the defense played?
Yes, because Bob Sutton has driven an average. Well, it was a talented unit a few years ago. They got by with their running game, Alex Smith being careful, and the defense. The defense's talent depleted, and they weren't able to be coached up. Well, that's on Bob Sutton. So they have a general manager apparently in Kansas City. Yeah, his name's Andy Reid. Andy Reid controls the football operations, and he never addressed the problem that Bob Sutton couldn't get more out of his players. So it's on him. Ultimately, it has to fall on Andy Reid.
I understand that, but I guess from an overarching point of view, it's his fault. But game plan's a game plan. He's not going to be involved in that kind of situation. Like, Andy Reid's right up there in the, Joe Gibbs style. What do you want your defense to do? Give me the ball back. I think it's easy to think, but Bill Belichick fully understands every single facet of the game. So therefore, I believe every head coach should do that. And I just don't. I think there's too much information. I don't think Sean McVay's in the defensive huddle. Like, is he involved in an overarching game plan on a Wednesday? Yeah, probably. But is he involved in anything else? And the question was, well, why is he playing prevent and given all this space and dropping so deep? And it's absolutely valid conversations, but I'm not 100% sure that's Andy Reid's fault, apart from the fact that he hired Bob Sutton in the first place, if you know what I mean. It's like, I look and I think, with like Bill Belichick is a unicorn. He's a genius. And I look at all the best coaches ever, and I'm not 100% sure Bill Walsh was ever involved in defensive huddles.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Also, Jimmy Johnson wasn't. Jimmy Johnson weren't doing that.
But as you say,
it wasn't happening.
As you say, if to criticise Andy Reid for playing deep prevent defence, what he invented it, did he? Every coach does it. It's not as if they've been playing the 46 defence or the Baltimore Ravens defence all season. Then all of a sudden in the playoffs they pooed themselves and played prevent. Every NFL coach, with a few exceptions maybe, since the dawn of time, since primeval man first stepped out of the oceans and started throwing rocks at someone else, and the other people backed off and gave him 20 yards. Football has been played prevent defence in situations like that. Andy Reid, it's to say, he knows it's going to happen because he has seen it. You can't blame him for that per se. It's a tried and tested strategy, and we've seen what people who go against the grain, they get run out of the NFL. But if you have that coach and you say, we're going to run prevent, well, you've got to know his version of the prevent is crap.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I think, if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you think, at the moment, it feels like I've got a mind meld between the offensive play caller and Mahomes. So in that situation, I've got a chance for the next 5 years, say.
Yeah, you've got a quarterback. You've got a chance.
And I look and I think Tom Brady's been in the NFL for 18 years. And this is his 9th Super Bowl. And that is unbelievable. And, Tom and Julian and Gronk can give me the big, no one believed in us and get on to us. And that's fine, because whatever gets you through the day, what we need to understand is, when you've been to 9 Super Bowls in 18 years, motivation surely is an issue. So you need to pick up on one small thing and feast on it, because you don't have motivation. Do you know what I mean? There's kids who were born in 2000 in Boston who just only think that the Patriots were good and they just get to Super Bowls all the time. Like, when Bob Kraft took over, they nearly moved to Hartford, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. That's just fact. It's not something that can be that nearly happened because no one was interested. They were a joke in comparison to the rest of the teams out of Boston. And now, they're the model franchise in the NFL.
Their last, the last game that they didn't sell out at home was the game before Robert Kraft took over.
Well, and there you go, Neil. I think that kind of says it all. So I think we do give a lot of credence and credit to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and rightfully so. But Robert Kraft also wants his piece of the pie. Neil, that's it on the championship review, and we'll go deeper in the game next week, and we'll, laud the Rams offense and Aaron Donald and Tom Brady and Gronk and Edelman and Bill Belichick. We will do that next week. But now we wanted to quickly focus on awards, get them out the way, kind of give an idea of where we were, what we think of the major awards that are going to be given out at the NFL Honors. So I just want to harp back to the start of the season. At that time, I gave the following predictions out. MVP will be Phil Rivers, 28-1, until he got absolutely blown out. Those worst picks. Defensive Rookie of the Year was Derwin James at 9-1. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I picked Baker Mayfield at 6-1. And Coach of the Year, I picked Anthony Lynn based on the Phil Rivers correlly. They were one game away from having the number 1 seed. They then got blown out by the Patriots. It didn't work out. So, Neil, we're going to pick MVP. Offensive.
For the record, I can't remember who I picked. Go back and listen to the.
And I didn't write it.
Go back and listen to the last show before the season started if you're really interested.
It's actually in week 1. MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, Defensive Rookie, Comeback Player, and Coach of the Year. They're what we're going to pick today. So, Neil, can you start with who you believe is the MVP of the league this year?
Well, it's Patrick Mahomes. We went from a season where Alex Smith had a career year, throwing 26 touchdowns, and people were saying, well, can Mahomes replicate what Smith did? And he virtually doubled it in terms of touchdowns. He had, he threw for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, touchdown rate of 8.6%, completion percentage 6.7. He was a freak, and the numbers alone don't tell the full story of how exciting a player he is. And as I say, the Chiefs offensively were a joy for most of the season, and he was behind that. So I have no qualms with giving him the MVP.
Yeah, I also have Patrick Mahomes as the MVP. I think, um, as you said, 50 touchdown for someone who played one game before the start of the season. Led this team to the number one seed in the AFC. Don't forget these are regular season awards, and how he did in the regular season is pretty spectacular. And I think it's hard to argue that it isn't Patrick Mahomes. Who's your offensive player of the year?
Offensive player of the year is Todd Gurley. He had 1,800 yards from scrimmage. He was fourth in total yards from scrimmage in the NFL. He missed 2 games. He scored 21 touchdowns. He's had 30 rushing scores over the last 2 seasons. When he's on form, he made the Rams go. He made everything. He's the what's the phrase? He's the spoon that stirs the drink. And he was a dynamic performer. What's happening now is a problem. But again, regular season award. Alvin Kamara was as good and as dynamic, but I just think there's something about Gurley. I say you saw the drop off from the Rams when Gurley was not there. Certainly from a passing point of view. Obviously, they're still effective running the ball, but they weren't as attractive. They're more grinded out. Whereas Alvin Kamara was ridiculously consistent. So I'd be honest, it'd be a toss up. But some might have a toss up between Gurley and Kamara. I went with Gurley.
I don't like this award, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know. Because basically the MVP is Patrick Mahomes because he threw for 50 touchdowns and loads of yards. So he was the best offensive player in the league. So why is he not offensive player of the year? Now I understand why he's not offensive player of the year because in the NFL weirdly they never give the same person 2 awards. Don't know why. It's fair enough. And I guess what we should be starting to call this award because MVP is it should be MVQB, right? It's most valuable quarterback because it's very rare that someone outside a quarterback wins it. So it should be offensive player of the year, asterisk, not a quarterback. If it's not a quarterback, it's probably Todd Gurley. I think you could make an argument for Ezekiel Elliott, just given the fact of how dependent the Cowboys are on him being good. And I agree with the Todd Gurley stirs the drink, but I just look and think if Zeke doesn't go, they just didn't go anywhere, especially for most of the start of the year anyway. So
I think
if it's offensive player of the year, it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I think that's what dings Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, who both also had excellent seasons, but the teams sucked. So,
yes, I thought about Christian McCaffrey, but yeah, I didn't say on Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers. Obviously, they're coming to London this year. We're not going to talk about the games given overview. You will have already seen that. But if you do get a chance, go onto Panthers Twitter, as they have embedded Premier League commentary over NFL plays, and it's absolutely mega. Neil, who's your defensive player of the year?
Aaron Donald, and I will brook no argument. 20.5 sacks, 25 tackles for loss. And what was the statistic? He was double teamed on about 75% of his plays. Just a wrecking machine.
I think some people could put forward an argument that it's Khalil Mack. I would listen to that argument for possibly 10 seconds and then say he is silver medalist, but he's silver medalist in the second best team of France are behind Paris Saint-Germain, who are 20 points clear. To
quote Dr. Cox, wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong.
A wonderful talent, amazing player, absolutely pulled the pants down on the Oakland Raiders, and will be again another player you will see in London next year. But he isn't Aaron Donald.
No, few are indeed. Neil, who was offensive rookie of the year? You tell it.
It's only one offensive rookie of the year. It doesn't really take a lot of thinking. If these awards are quarterback dependent, which they usually are, how many rookies came into a team that didn't win a game? won them 7 games, of which he played in all 7 of those victories. Basically got his schlong out and waved it around multiple times, gave the finger to so many people, including a former coach of his, who was a coach of his that year, didn't give a flying F about anybody apart from his teammates and what his franchise were doing. Ladies and gentlemen, the only offensive rookie of the year, and a man who stole my heart this year, Mr. Baker Mayfield.
He had the second most passing yards by a Browns quarterback since 1999. The second most touchdown passes by a Browns quarterback since 1999. He had 4 game-winning drives, tied for the most by any Browns quarterback since 1999 in a single season. And he gave the Browns offense swagger. The thing that while the Browns have been mostly terrible, the few places where they've been able to hang the hat is they've had a good influx of defensive talent. Yeah, so the face of your franchise is a nose tackle or a cornerback. No, this is a face of franchise player. Saquon Barkley was incredible.
He was incredible. I was going to say that it was incredible.
He had to be. You take him second overall. If he hadn't been incredible, heads would be rolling in New York. Baker Mayfield came in, was taken first overall, and didn't take a single first team snap, until he had to. So, hats off Hugh Jackson for starting Tyrod Taylor over Baker Mayfield and Carlos Hyde over Nick Chubb. You wonder why you're not going to have a job, apart from the fact you're an arsehole, is you're a terrible coach. Baker Mayfield's the offensive rookie, and it's just a shame we can't give him the award next year as well.
Hopefully we'll be able to give him lots of awards in the future. I think he's super cool, and shout out to your friend and man of Fantasy Mansion, who absolutely nailed Baker Mayfield. Like I'd be selling stock on, get onto me, I'm super awesome at talent evaluation. You can all have Josh Allen. I'm taking Baker Mayfield. I don't care what he looks like. I can't wait to have him on this year to express so I can find out his thoughts on Kyler Murray.
It'll be interesting.
Neil, who's your defensive rookie of the year?
My defensive rookie of the year is Darius Leonard.
Yeah.
I just think in the age we live in now where linebackers are luxury picks, because we expect, they'll come in, they'll play 2 downs, they'll bugger off. He led the league in combined tackles, he led the league in solo tackles. He was on the fit. He had 8 passes defended. He had 4 forced fumbles. He had an interception or 2, I think. All this while playing 92% of the Colts' defensive snaps. So I think for what the price they paid for him and the identity he gave them on defense, Derwin James, a phenomenal player, and was an impact player like we thought he would be. But I think when your expectations were that high, I don't think Derwin James was consistently excellent enough compared to Darius Leonard, who was, superb week in, week out. Derwin James, I love him. I think he's great. But Leonard is the better story.
I think you're probably right. But as someone who picked Derwin James at the start of the season at 9-1, I'm going to pick Derwin James because then I could win. I think he was magnificent. As you said, he's an impact player and he's all over the field. And there's loads of teams, Washington, who should be looking and thinking probably should have picked him, even though Jerome Payne's been good. Should have been picked. He's a talent. He's special. And I think the San Diego Chargers, I'm just going to say it, that's where they're from. If Kevin Clark calls him San Diego, so I'm going to call him San Diego.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. You're not Kevin Clark.
No, I'm not. But if he calls him, so do I. Derwin James will be good for them for a long time to come. Neil, who's your comeback player of the year?
We thought this was going to be hotly contested, given the amount of people who were coming back, from some form of injury or something after last year. But in my opinion, it was a runaway winner, and it was Andrew Luck, who was finished in week 3, if you remember.
I dread to think what I said about him in week 3, to be honest.
Yeah. I say he had, his second most touchdowns in his career. Despite the fact that during the Texans game, they said he had career high in touchdown passes with 39, and then showed a graphic where he had 40 in 2014. So bravo. And I say it's incredible what happens when you have a franchise quarterback and you protect him, because he was sacked 18 times in 16 games. He was sacked 15 times in 7 games in 2015, which was his previous career low. But he was still on pace to get absolutely waxed. So, and plus, see, the league's just more fun with Andrew Luck. Yes, he's a dork. He's got, but when the Captain Andrew Luck Twitter feed is actually able to give us reports on games he's played in, we all win.
Yes. I think it's hard to argue that it's not Andrew Luck. I actually think it's impossible. There are players who came back, but they're not players who came back like Andrew Luck.
Yeah, JJ Watt was good. He put up 16 odd sacks, but he wasn't JJ Watt. He's still a great player.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
not JJ Watt.
Adrian Peterson was good. Do you know what I mean? He was good, but he didn't do what Andrew Luck did. So it's kind of a non-debate. Found a coach and a scheme that works for him, and you can't argue with that. Do you know what I mean? That you can't underestimate the benefit of that.
No.
Neil, who was your coach of the year?
Matt Nagy. I think for the turnaround and the culture change that he brought about with the Bears. They finished 9th in points scored. That is the 3rd time they have been in the top 10 in points scored since 1995. Yeah. It was their first playoff berth since 2010, first division title since 2010. He was the first... he's the first Bears head coach to win 11 games in his first season since George Halas retired for the last time. That was in 1967, and they've had 11 head coaches since then. He made them, they were fun on offense. They have some pieces. The defense, as we know, was excellent, but we don't know what's going to happen. But in terms of a single season turnaround, the Bears were seen as a joke with John Fox. The only way they could have been worse is if they'd had Jeff Fisher. John Fox, Jeff Fisher, same initials. I just realised that. Jesus.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, he made them fun. He made them entertaining, and he made them interesting, because as we've harped on countless times, the one thing you cannot be in the NFL is boring.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
I hate this award.
Because Bill Belichick's
Bill Belichick's coach of the year. Like, it sounds ridiculous. Because it's not who is the best coach. It is, in a narrative situation, whose team has improved so dramatically due to coaching. So, like, Bill Belichick got to the Super Bowl last year and has got to the Super Bowl this year. In theory, his coaching hasn't got better. That doesn't mean he's not the best coach. He obviously is.
Yeah.
That's undeniable. It's like that, those Vince Lombardi truthers and Bill Walsh truthers. It might be time to put your pitchforks down. Like there's a undisputed champion of the world now, and it isn't close.
To be fair, Bill Belichick himself says Paul Brown's the greatest coach of all time.
Imagine
You're wrong, Bill.
Imagine the only thing Bill Belichick being wrong about is that. So, as you said, the Bears were a joke. They were rubbish, and they had a quarterback who we didn't believe in. We still don't believe in that quarterback. However, he managed to throw for a load of yards, run for a load of yards, and win 11 games. He did that because of his head coach.
Yeah, systems help.
Systems help. Breaking news. Story at 11. So, for me, it's Matt Nagy. I don't, there was some, we always like slagging off coaches because it's fun. But there were some good coaching performances this year. Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, obviously.
I think as well, if you look at, there's some coaches who, for how they finished the season, they should get consideration. Frank Reich, obviously, it was worthy of some. Bill O'Brien, say what you like about them, they were in the hole, and all of a sudden they were railed off 10. I'm going to be biased. Doug Peterson, that team could have quit 5 and 6. It didn't.
Yep.
Obviously, and I say you only have to see the difference between good coaching and see what bad coaching can do.
Yep.
So see someone like John Gruden, Marv Lewis, John Harbaugh as well. People who came on late. I mean, I put it this way: regardless of what happens in Coach of the Year, Mike Tomlin is never going to be considered for this award.
Yeah, true.
Ever.
Not at the moment, anyway. Something drastically would have to change, Neil. Okay, they're the awards, and we are going to be
Don't
ready.
get too drunk in the after party.
Yeah, we're going to get ready for the Super Bowl. So Neil, to ready people, is there anything they can read from you this week?
Yep, I've had 4 articles, 4, count them, this week. I have identified potential cut candidates for all 32 teams. So there's 2 articles, one for the NFC, one for the AFC, that you can find them at Number Fire. And also I've started my rookie look-backs. This year I'm doing running backs and tight ends this year, shocking. And to get us off, I've started with Saquon Barkley and Kerryon Johnson. The reason I start with Kerryon Johnson is because he was on injured reserve weeks ago. I could start the research weeks ago. So, there is always a plan. And what I do in these articles is I have a look statistically at players who enjoyed a similar rookie season to the likes of Saquon Barkley and Kerryon Johnson. Then I have a look at reasons to be positive about these players, reasons to be a little bit down on them from their rookie season, and a brief look at their outlook moving forward. Obviously, we're 9 months away from people having fantasy drafts, 8 to 9 months. But from where I sit this moment, this is where I think about these players. So, I say I've still got plenty of running backs to do. Then I'll start the tight ends. I think someone else at RotoViz will be doing the quarterbacks and wide receivers. But it's a good series because we're not saying. Just a quick spoiler alert, one of Saquon Barkley's closest comps is Alvin Kamara. I'm not saying Saquon Barkley is going to be Alvin Kamara. It's in his range of outcomes from a statistical point of view from the rookie season. Wouldn't be a bad one. But it's just nice to see.
It'd be nice. Yeah. It would also, I bet you the Giants would like a comparison of Eli Manning to Drew Brees. I saw the best Manning throw of the past 5 years today. It was Cooper's son in quarterback drills. So he's the best Manning quarterback right now is 12.
Yeah, probably still Archie, to be fair.
That's it for this show. We're nearly there. Super Bowl next, and we will see you for a preview next week. These top guys are out.